On today's Transport Evolved, robotic leafs, cleaner EVs, beating Tesla, free CarWings, and how to jumpstart your EV, plus a world ruled entirely by women. Coming up next on Transport Evolved. Transport Evolved is sponsored by audiblepodcast.com. To claim your free audiobook from a selection of over 85,000 growing titles for your iPod or MP3 player, head to www.audiblepodcast.com/Transport Evolved. And by your kind donations. To make a gift to the show or to set up a monthly subscription, head to www.transportevolved.com. We thank you for your kind support. And proud to support Chronovirus, the latest book by Long Island author Aaron Crocco. To find out more and get a free chapter, head to www.aaroncrocco.com. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to episode number 167 of Transport Evolved, recorded on Sunday, 29th of September, 2013. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield.
And I'm Mark Chatterley. Hello, Nikki. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. It feels like ages since we've seen each other.
You are such a sarcastic loser.
Yes,
For those of you who don't know, Transport Evolved launched a new website this week. Brand new design. It's all shiny. Everything's still a bit, still got the new car smell on it, hasn't it, Mark?
It has. It's new. It's bedding in, I think is the phrase. Bedding in.
Bedding in. And in fact, on Thursday, we did underestimate the popularity of our site because our server died because we didn't have a big enough server. We've since taken care of that.
Yeah.
And yesterday we launched our first Transport Evolved News, our first TEN. I hope you really enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing it. You enjoyed directing it?
I did, and editing it. I really enjoyed that. It was my first ever go at editing a video, so please forgive me if it wasn't quite up to standards. But we'll get there. It's a growing passion.
We're TV noobs, video noobs, but our guest is not a noob in any of the above. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Robert Llewellyn. How are you today, Robert?
I'm very good, thank you. And I'm very impressed with the very, very professional editing on the new show. It looked like it was done by an old hand.
He is very good. And he brought it over to my house. He drove it because living in the middle of Gloucestershire, poor Mark's internet connection, it would take about a year to upload the Final Cut Pros to my server. So he drove here and was really, really proud. We plugged in his external drive into my studio machine. We played it and then I went, need to do that. Need to change that. Need to do that. I'm sorry, Mark.
It was bad. But what I'm quite glad about today is that in doing this, I've been doing this a year and a half with you, Nikki, I think now.
You have.
And I've never managed to get on a show with Robert before. It's always been fate.
Well, I don't do it very often, do I? No, I'm very bad.
And
Nikki has asked me, and I'm always doing something else. It's difficult.
It is good to have you back, Robert. Let's put it like that. But Robert, you've been very busy lately with your new book, haven't you?
I have. It has rather taken over my life at the moment because it's actually officially launched on Tuesday next week. So we're having a launch party thing, so then that's when it's available in all the bookshops and everything and all that stuff. So the people who supported it on Unbound have already got theirs, but the rest of them are coming very soon. And it's been wonderful so far. People have been very kind. You never know.
Well, I've got my edition. Thank you. It arrived the other day, but I haven't had. I must admit, Robert, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I did have a look. I think. Well,
there are people on Twitter who've already finished.
Oh well, in that case, I need to speed up, don't I? Really?
I'm always amazed at how quickly people read it because it took me forever to write it, and then they read it in a couple of days, and then take longer.
Well, I must admit that I find it slightly disconcerting that your main character was born in the same year that I was.
Oh, yes, I didn't know that.
1979.
But now you say it,
yes,
it all makes perfect sense.
Yes, the nuttiness, the zaniness, the stupidness. Yes, the sheer ignorance. All right, so we should move on with the stories for the week. If you haven't seen Transport Evolved before, let me just explain what it's about. We used to have Transport Evolved on every week, recorded on a Thursday, where we used to discuss the week's news in the world of EVs. And we used to basically try and cover all the news that there was. And we always ended up with a really long show that ran over, that didn't cover the stories in the way we wanted to. And so we have just launched TEN, Transport Evolved News, which is like 10 minutes of the top news stories of the week. It's not all the news stories of the week, but what we then do is on the new Transport Evolved site, we then link and write about all the other stories. So you will get your EV news. You just have to read some of the less important stuff, hear about the important stuff on TEN, and then on the Sunday show, which used to be the Thursday show, we talk about the big stories, bat around some ideas, and see what our panelists think. So this week, we've got the first new edition of the new show format. If you want to take part in the show by reading the show notes, head to www.transportevolved.com sorry, that's not correct, tinyurl.com/transportevolved167. You can also access them from our website. You can also join in the chat by going to www.transportevolved.com/live. And if you want to tweet us during the show, we get those Twitter messages. It's at TransportEvolve, or use the hashtag TransportEvolved. So let's go on to the first section. It has been the weekend for International Plug-in Day, which has been absolutely fantastic. We were supposed to be doing something which unfortunately got cancelled, but International Plug-in Day has been held all around the world. It's the third year it's happened. What have you been doing, Robert, to celebrate International Plug-in Day?
Well, I have plugged my car in during the day, which is unusual because I normally charge it at night because it was sunny. When my wife came back in the Leaf, I plugged it in, and I thought that's as much as I can do today. So it was charging off the solar panels, and it's now full again, which is very nice. So I've done absolutely nothing other than plug my car in.
Mark, what have you done?
I feel guilty about it.
Today, nothing. But over the past 2 days, I've driven about 250 miles, which is unusual for me. So I've quite enjoyed that. And I managed to stop, I think, at the same rapid charger twice, which is quite interesting because it's on one direction on a motorway. So I went past it, stopped in, drove past it the other side, and then had to come back down the other way. This is while we were doing 10 quite a lot, which was good, and it really is showing me that now these rapid chargers are coming in, these Chatterley rapid chargers. The way I use my car is changing. It's now I don't think a 250 miles in a day isn't actually that big a deal anymore, as long as I'm sort of staying to major trunk roads. It's good.
It is very cool the way that now we can drive these distances with rapid charging. This week, actually, one of the guys at Waitrose did a fantastic video where they covered 500 miles in an EV in a single day using Ecotricity's fantastic electric highway. And 500 miles, I think, is achievable. You would have to be slightly crazy because they did stop several times, and they got there very late at night. But theoretically, you could do it. I would point out that you'd have to really try very hard to do 500 miles anywhere in the UK. But if you do that over a couple of days, I could drive to Norfolk and back in 2 days, and that would be 500 and some miles. So it's really good. Anyway, back to Plug-in Day. I didn't really do much, I admit, for Plug-in Day, although we launched the new show yesterday. So I think, Mark, that counts. Launching the new show, that counts. And the new website. Over in America, Linda Nichols of Plug-in America, she's been connected with EVs for a very long time. She was actually in the film Who Killed the Electric Car, and she owns, or is currently an owner of, a beautiful red Tesla Roadster. Absolutely gorgeous looking car. And in an attempt to help raise money for Plug-in America and help raise the profile of electric cars, she has donated her Tesla Roadster to this online auction. She's in Newport Beach, California. She's auctioning off her car, and the proceeds will go to obviously to EV causes. It currently stands at $54,000. First of all, it's very generous of her to obviously give her car away. But secondly, how much do you reckon it's going to go for, guys? What do you think, Mark?
Well, if it stays at 54, that's an amazing bargain. But I imagine it's going to get into the sort of 120s. Because, I mean, these kind of things tend to go above the standard price because it's more about the charity than the object you're buying. So, yeah, about 120, 125,000, I reckon it'll get to.
What do you reckon, Robert?
I mean, it's so hard to know, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how long. I'm just looking madly at it now. So it's got 3 days left. I mean, it could certainly get up to 100,000, I would imagine, but it just depends how many people know about it. I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it? If it's because you've got to be quite rich. Because I looked at it, what shall I place a bid? And then I'd looked at that before I saw how much was already on. I'm not placing a bid right now. Yeah, so gosh, it's extraordinary, isn't it? No, amazing. Wow. What a fabulous car too.
Someone in the chat room says
what's she driving?
I don't know. I assume she must be driving something like a RAV4 EV now or something. She used to have a RAV4, but one of the new ones. I've just seen what you were talking about in the chat room. 65,000 is sort of a certified used roadster from Tesla. I think 65,000. Okay. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Really. Yeah, but for one that isn't certified, you could get one for more. I feel sorry though. Let's carry on our plug-in day roundup. This here is Seattle yesterday. Okay, it's like that every time I've been to Seattle. It's like that. And I've been quite a few times. It's like living in Gloucestershire. It's just raining. You have got to feel so sorry for those guys. Yeah. This was International Plug-in Day for those poor guys in Seattle. Mark, if we ever move to America for whatever reason, that's where we go. I guess it would make us feel homely. I think if any three of us went to America, that's where we should be going. I mean, it's just you just get to the point where you think, I'm sure that amount of rain is not supposed to happen. But then I suppose that's quite normal for Seattle, and they're all wearing, proper outdoor stuff. So it's not like when you go somewhere tropical and you have a torrential rainstorm, and then you see people kind of going, "Oh, how do I go from A to B to C to D because it's raining?" You just, it's easy stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I'm guessing there weren't very many sort of topless roasters there, as in roasters with the roof off, rather than the ruder version of that. I still can't envisage a rude version of a topless roadster. I'm obviously too old. Obviously. I mean, I must. Oh, terrible. I've got to admit that I have. It's very disconcerting to see that the Brits really haven't embraced Plug-in Day, and I don't know why. Why do you think we haven't embraced Plug-in Day, Robert? I mean, I feel utterly lost. I mean, I would assume because I just, until I saw this afternoon, I didn't know today was International Plug-in Day. And on Twitter, I get a torrent of information 24 hours a day on everything that's happening in electric cars. And somehow I've missed it. So when I saw this, it's International Plug-in Day, earlier today, I ran outside and plugged the car in immediately. And that was just pure guilt, pure middle-class, smug, tofu-eating guilt that made me do that. And I have it different. When I plug in the day, I feel really guilty because I haven't got solar panels. So I know it's kind of dirtier power during the day. So yeah. You've got the smugness of I can plug in during the day. Well, on a sunny day. I mean, it was because I check. Always before I plug in the day, I check my meters and see what I'm getting from the panels, and I was getting enough. So it was well, earlier on today we did have rain, although it was at 2 a.m. So it didn't really make much difference. I've got to just comment on the Seattle rain. Apparently, says the chat room. Oh, yeah? They had a record 2.68 inches of rain. That's a lot. They had 75 cars or more, and over 150 people turned up. So that's basically 2 people per car. But we're not. It's quite interesting because we're not so big in this country on those kind of groups. So like car groups aren't a big thing in this country, and in the US you get like the Ford Mondeo owners group and the various groups, and we don't have that for some reason in this country, and I don't know why. So I wondered if that sort of plays into why these kind of events don't take off so well in the UK, because we don't feel that camaraderie with people who just happen to have a similar car to us. You see, I wave at Leafs all the time, And I also wave at other EVs. And at the moment, I'm driving a petrol courtesy car, and people think I'm frigging nuts. I mean, I am, but I'll be driving down the street with the kids, and they go, "Oh, look, there's a C0," and I'll beep and I'll wave out the window, and the person's driving past. And it's the same person that waves back to me when I'm in the Leaf. I just forget what car I'm driving. I'm so enthused about EVs. I wave to everyone all the time. Oh, well. On a more happy note, you know, other than random people waving at you and torrential rain, there was some great news out of California yesterday. Governor Jerry Brown, who celebrated International Plug-in Weekend or Day by signing 6 new EV-friendly laws into law, EV-friendly bills into law. Now, some of them were extensions of existing programs. So, for example, there was a bill to extend the California HOV lane, the high occupancy vehicle lane program, so that people with all electric cars who have the white stickers and people who have plug-in hybrid vehicles that have certain levels of qualifying plug-in hybrid vehicles can also now be sure that their program will extend until 2019, which is brilliant.
Yeah, no, it is extraordinary. There was a wonderful article written by Bill Maher, the TV humorist who has the wonderful Bill Maher show, which was a letter from California to the rest of the United States. And it was very smug, but it was saying, you know, our governor is an intelligent human being and he's introduced this legislation. I mean, it was across the board, not just electric car, though he did mention that. And no, it is an extraordinary thing. And when you think, I mean, I do firmly believe that the transition we're seeing in motoring is entirely down to California. That's where it started, really. The whole thing was started in California, and it was a combination of their chronic pollution that they had particularly in Los Angeles in the 1970s and 80s, and Silicon Valley. It's a peculiar and bizarre combination of, you know, people in Silicon Valley who understood lithium-ion batteries, battery management systems, how to use electronics and computer programming to govern the way things operate, and their sort of air pollution legislation, which is what's really done it. And it is extraordinary that, thankfully, they're continuing that. I mean, it's also the stuff about fitting chargers in chargers in car parks where people who live in, as they say in America, condos, as we'd say, a block of flats. You know, but that's a really big thing, because the amount of people I've spoken to who live in an apartment and would love to have have a car park even, and would love to have a charger fitted, and it's very difficult if it's communally owned. You know, it needs government legislation to make that possible in many cases.
Yeah,
which they've done there, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, one of these bills is to essentially go, if you're building a multi-family dwelling, apartment block, condo, you must put in charging. But this is the one that really, I think, is going to make a huge difference. The law, I'm just can't remember which one it is. It's SB 454.
454, yeah.
Which will
I want a badge which says I support SB 454.
It will end the wallet of cards. Robert, how many cards do you have now?
7. I think I have
7. Mark?
I've started refusing to sign into some of these schemes. So I got the first year on Polar for free because they forgot to phone me back and charge me and just sent me the card, which was quite good. That didn't happen the second year, so I just have my card no longer works. And I think I've got 4 or 5, and they're just the free ones. I'm refusing to give anyone even £10 for an administration fee because I just don't. I said it over and over again. It does the opposite of what they think it does. It stops people using their network, which is surely not what they want. We've put these posts in the ground so people with electric cars can charge up, but only these special subset of people that we send these magic cards out to. It's just a bonkers idea. And
I think that bill is going to spread around the world. I think that's the only way it can spread around the world.
Yeah.
Because it has to happen, and we have to see this kind of behaviour moving, because otherwise people aren't going to buy EVs. Most people are not going to buy an EV if they think, oh, I've got to spend, I've got to spend £50 a year registering for these services, and then I've got to carry around all these darned cards everywhere I go.
It's more that. I mean, I think most people who don't drive electric cars wouldn't even know. They would have no idea of the whole thing. So I'm not sure it would necessarily put people off, but as soon as they've got them, they then become a massive problem because you have to have a wallet full of RFID cards, and it's a pain. And I mean, quite often I've said, when people have come up to me and I'm using a rapid charger, do you have to pay for that? And you say no, and then they get all funny. Some people get funny about that. But I mean, to be honest, I would be perfectly happy to pay £5 to use a rapid charger because it's so convenient and it helps me on my way, and it means I don't have to worry about it and da da da. But have what would be good is to have all you want is a universal thing. So you have one card or one fob that does every single charger in the country. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah,
the back end of those things can be complicated. He's used this charger that belongs to these people. Well, that fob just registers it. That's what computers do. That's what we do. That all the time, all over the place, in every other walk of life. And it's early stages at the moment. It is frustrating, and having the amount of times I put one card on, the next one on, and then suddenly it goes bing, and it's completely random as far as I'm concerned. It's the sort of bluey green card. I don't know which one it is.
Oh dear. Right, moving on. Chevrolet has come up with an EV etiquette crib sheet for Spark EV owners, telling you what you should do when you drive a Chevy Spark EV. Obviously, this is marketing for its little tiny electric car. But two of the interesting things, it says, firstly, you should use your pedestrian warning alert system to tell pedestrians you're there by honking the horn. And like the Volt, it's a little noise, a little chirrup, which to me sounds a bit like a cat that's looking at a bird very intently. And have you ever seen a cat on the ground looking at a bird in the tree, and it wants the bird really, really desperately, and it's frustrated by the bird, and it sits there on the ground and it goes like that, little cat, very, very quickly. I'm really excited.
Do the cats near you echolocate?
No, not quite. But anyway,
I'm now racking my brains to remember witnessing this. I can't think.
I've seen cats do it
exactly
before.
What you mean, Nikki.
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, the Chevy Spark EV does this, as does the Volt, and it's saying, use that. I used it a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago on someone, and they nearly jumped into the hedge, because this car suddenly went, I was like, oh, where did that come from? So I don't know if that's a good idea. The second one is plug-in hybrids have to basically give the charging stations to electric vehicle owners when they turn up. I don't know if Chevy told the Volt division. I can see, the internal discussions at lunchtime. Did you just tell people to unplug our owners' cars so that your people's cars can charge? I don't know. And this is the last one of the segment. If you're flying into San Francisco or Los Angeles airports from now on, you can have an electric Model S to rent. Now, Robert, you've flown into America lots of times. Can you describe to us in the UK? Because for Americans, this is quite normal. The way that rental places operate. But in the UK, we normally pay at the rental place what we thought we were going to pay on the phone. But when you turn up in America, it's, would you like this? Would you like that? Oh, yeah. The taxes. I mean, have you had that rental experience?
Yes, I have, and it is about double what you you booked online before you flew. Once it all adds up, or it hasn't got windows. Oh yes, I'd like windows.
Well, that's
not quite that bad, but it's sort of almost on.
That's $100 more, sir.
Yeah, and the sat nav and all that stuff, and it certainly is a different thing. So this sounds like it's going to be quite expensive. Yes. As soon as I saw it, I went, right, because I'm hopefully going out to the States in the sort of spring of next year. And I thought, right, I'm booking that straight away. And then you go, right, well, it makes a first class flight ticket look cheap.
It does. I mean, we're looking at it. I looked online. It's part of Hertz's Dream Cars collection.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mark.
Oh, God. We did this story on Transport Evolved News on 10, and we probably recorded all the stories in maybe 20 minutes, except for this story, which Nikki, for some reason, couldn't cope with saying Model S and Hertz in the same sentence without breaking down into laughter.
Cars.
Even when watching it back on the finalised version, she started laughing.
Hertz Dream Cars Model S. I mean, I'm very good at getting tongue-tied, but to be honest, that isn't stretching me.
No. It was something to do with San Francisco, Los Angeles. It was all those
San Francisco,
words.
Los Angeles, Hertz Dream Cars Model S. No, I can't do it.
Ah, well, there you
San
go.
Francisco Model S, Hertz Dream Cars. No, that's
No,
coming
it
out
just,
all
I
right.
don't know what it did, but it just made me laugh. Anyway, it's part of the Dream Cars collection. I went online to look up the pricing for this, and the Model S wasn't on there at the time, but I did price up a Porsche Panamera. $4,800 for a week.
Yeah, I'm getting that one. Because you know, I've been on the telly. That means I'm a multi-trillionaire. I'm told that every day on Twitter, so it must be true.
Well, maybe you can just you go there and you just upgrade everyone to the Porsche Panamera while you're there.
Just the whole airport.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Why not?
But so what we're saying, or what it seems to be, is that a week's rental of the Model S is likely to be around the price for a deposit on a Model S. Yes,
if that's the case. I mean, we don't know, do we? But I mean, you know, the cost of the car would be around. What is a Porsche Panamera? Because it's going to be similar, isn't it? I would imagine.
Yeah. They're similarly priced
probably,
and performance. You know, the Panamera performs less well than the Model S, but you do think they must be making a heck of a lot of money out of that. The question is then, who buys the Model S that's been used as a rental car? Because, you know, the standard knowledge for used car buying is don't buy a car which was once a rental car.
Yeah, I mean, this is one thing I've been really intrigued in, because I used to hate lending my car to people because of the clutch. That was always what worried me. Nothing else. Bodywork, doors, you know, the stereo. They weren't going to wear that out. But I was always worried that they would ride the clutch and wear the clutch out. And there's no. I don't think it would make a big difference. You know, if it isn't smashed up, and the seats aren't slashed, then what's the problem? I mean, what's going to be? You know, okay, the battery, but you can test all those things. You can test before you check before you buy it. It's not going to. You know, I think it's very different now. I'd lend my electric car to anyone who can drive. It doesn't worry me. They're not going to. What are they going to do? I mean, they might crash it. Well, they might crash any car. You know, that's not the point. But they're not going to. You know, there were so many kind of delicate bits of complicated and very expensive mechanics in an old-fashioned car that you'd worry about if someone else went in it. And I don't mind. It doesn't worry me anymore.
Does that apply to your children as well? You're more comfortable allowing your children to drive your electric car than you would have been if you had a petrol car?
Absolutely. My daughter is learning to drive at the moment, and she went for her first drive last weekend. We insure the car for 3 days at slightly less than it would cost if we insured it for a year, which would be as much as renting a Model S in California. And I mean, it's fine. She drives it very well. She's very sensible. I'm sitting there with her. You know, all we're concerned about is road safety, not, you know, double declutch. Oh, be in first, change to second. And she's now got to go and learn in a manual car. I mean, it's a whole other discussion, which is a real shame, I think, because it's such a, you know, it's so difficult. It's added a huge level of difficulty when you're learning to drive, to learn how to maintain clutches and gears and know which gear you're in and all that. When you should be concentrating on steering, brakes, where you're going, who's in the road, you know, the actual important stuff.
Absolutely.
There's a very good point being made by Dennis on the chat room about that one of the things to do is to go to another rental company like getaround.com/Model S, which I'm tempted. I would dare say that's a lot cheaper. It's $25 an hour by the looks of things,
right?
Which is a week is $4,200.
But I mean, I suppose if you think about it, when I went to Vegas for sort of the only major holiday I've ever had in my life. I went to Vegas and then San Francisco. But in Vegas, you could rent luxury cars, and they rented them by the hour, so you could cruise up and down the strip in a big Mustang or whatever it was you wanted. So I would pay that for a Model S to ride up and down the strip in.
Yeah, for a couple of hours, it'd be good. $400 a day, I would do it. I'd get one for a day. From getaround.com.
You see, the best thing to do is to ring up Tesla and go, "Hi, I'd like to do a review."
Yes. Well, obviously, that's what I'm actually doing.
That's what we're going to do. Right, it's time for an audible ad break, Mark.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Oh, me. Audible. Audible is a online service provided by Amazon. It's a online distribution and distribution service for audiobooks. I was going to go into another bit. They also started producing, but there are issues around that. But the bit you're interested in is they distribute audiobooks to you, and you sign up for a monthly fee, which is usually it starts around about £10, and you get 1 credit for that £10, and then you spend that credit on an audiobook. Audiobooks are usually about 1 credit each. There are a few there that are 2, but I've never ever actually come across them. And you can get pretty much any audiobook you like, anything from fiction, non-fiction, sci-fi, old BBC comedies are in there. There are autobiographies, biographies. Some of the biographies are actually read by the people who wrote them, which is absolutely incredible. And basically, they have a bajillion audiobooks for you to go. And if you go to audiblepodcast.com/transports evolved, you can sign up there. You get 1 month for free, so you can cancel at any point in that month. You get 1 free audiobook, and even if you cancel, you get to keep that audiobook, and we get a little bit of money for sending you that way. I'm not going to say that we get nothing for that, because we do, but we do like Audible.
Yeah, we do. And this week's pick is one that I think Robert's going to love. I don't know if you've read this book, Merchants of Doubt, by Naomi Oreskes and Eric M. Conway. I probably said that wrong. The idea is that for as long as we can remember, the US scientific community, just a small, tiny little bit of the US scientific community, has been there when everybody else is going, no, this thing's really bad, to go, no, it's fine. Whether it's, climate change, whether it's smoking, whether it's DDT, there have always been people who are scientists who have been willing to I suppose go against the grain, whether it's because they've been paid by the companies that need them to stand up against general scientific consensus, or whether it's just because they don't genuinely believe general consensus, and they've gone, yeah, no, this is wrong. Let's have a listen.
By the late 1970s, scores of lawsuits had been filed claiming personal injury from smoking cigarettes, but the industry had successfully defended itself by using scientists as expert witnesses to testify that the smoking cancer link was not unequivocal. They could do this by discussing research that focused on other causes or development mechanisms of chronic degenerative diseases imputed to cigarettes. The testimony would be particularly convincing if it were their own research. Experts could supply reasonable doubt, and who better to serve as an expert than an actual scientist? The strategy had worked in the past, so there was no reason to think it would not continue to work in the future.
There you go. Robert, it's a dangerous world, isn't it? Scientists
It is.
who...
I have the... Oh, no, yes, I have the actual paper version of that book, which I'm 3/4 of the way through. Terrifying and very chilling and a very hard... It's one of those arguments that is true, but when you suggest it in a public forum, you sound like a sort of tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. But
yeah,
it makes sense. I've always said I support, for instance, the oil industry paying bloggers and commenters to denigrate renewable energy, because that's their job. They're selling us they're selling us a product, and if we stop using it, they'll go out of business. So that's basic free market capitalism, I believe.
All right, well,
maybe we should get some of that money, Nikki.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Every now and then, just throw in one article about fracking, really good, and then just leave it at that.
Leave it alone. All right, global warming is our fault. EVs will just keep getting greener, and direct-to-you advertising. That's what we're talking about in this segment. The IPCC obviously made big waves this week when it produced a new report which said that almost categorically, I think it was 95% certainty, that humans are responsible for accelerated global warming and rising temperatures. In fact, I think they said something along the lines of, we are as responsible for global warming as smoking is for getting lung cancer.
We're as sure as there's a link between us and global warming as there is between smoking and causing cancer.
So,
which is amazing. And as I saw it put on Twitter, if you were diagnosed with an illness that was terminal in 95% of the cases, you'd do something about it. And yet we are essentially still ignoring
Do
this
you know,
issue.
I've stopped watching television news like the BBC because they had someone on the other day going, "Oh well, but it's not the UK's problem. Why should we do everything about it? Why should we clean up everybody else's mess?" And I'm thinking, well, okay, if there is a fire in your house because your partner left the chip pan on or the oven on, you don't stand there going, "Well, it's not my fire." They're the one that left the thing on. I mean, that's what 2-year-olds do. Robert.
Yeah. Well, even if there's a fire in your neighbour's house and you're looking out the window going, "Oh, look at that." Well, it's not my house.
It's just like...
Just leave them there to burn. Well, I mean, it is a very, very. I mean, the passion and fury of the people who doubt that climate change is anthropomorphic is phenomenal. I mean, and it is one of the reasons I very rarely mention it. Certainly in the talks I do about electric cars, I don't mention it in one way or the other, because there's so many other arguments in favour of electric vehicles that have nothing to do with climate change, that are socioeconomic and geopolitical and affect the immediate environment, as in the street, as in the fact that the Euston Road in London has just been upped this year to the second most polluted road in Europe. It was the third, which is absolutely down to road traffic. Nothing else. You can't blame it on coal burning or anything. It's because there's too many buses and taxis sitting in a hot, when it's a hot day, it's when it goes to catastrophic levels. And, we could do something about that on a very local area like that. But it is so distressing that the very, very few people who are so-called, climate change skeptics, and it is a few dozen, are funded to such a vast extent by such an enormous amount of money that their voice gets heard, and then they get used as balance in things like the BBC. The BBC thinking they have to do balance, where you've got a nutter and an actual scientist, and so you have a debate between a mad person who's funded by an oil company and an actual scientist who's done actual research.
Mark.
Dara Breen's stand-up was on TV last night, and I was watching that, and he was talking about astrology and how if the BBC really had that policy in the morning when they had those silly programs that they have on a morning TV where they get the psychicking and does the horoscopes for everyone for the week, they'd have him sat on the end of a couch and turn to him at the end of the segment, and he'd just go, "Everything that person just said was absolute rubbish." And it's really bizarre that the BBC won't do that in some instances, but in things like climate change, they insist on having this other view, which isn't valid.
It's silly, isn't it? Yeah. In related news, though, this is good news because this is kind of the other side of the bat. So we've talked about climate change is our fault. We need to do something to solve it. Obviously, electric cars are one such solution. And, Robert, I'm sure you're fed up with people going, "Oh, yes, but the coal-fired power stations." Yeah. There's a report this week from Shrink That Footprint, which says that the carbon emissions of electric cars around the globe are already getting cleaner. They're just getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner because more countries are decarbonising their energy generation.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big argument for me, which is the one that I'd spent such a long time trying to find out, is the amount of electricity we use in the oil refining industry, which is, of course, never mentioned by big Mr. C on Top Gear. And it is in 2005, which is the last year figures are available. It was 2,600 gigawatts in that year were used entirely simply by the three big oil refineries in this country. So it's a phenomenal amount, and the amount that's used in the United States, which puts it in perspective. I can't find out how. I did have the page open at one point, but I've lost it. It's a lot. I'll just say that. It's an enormous amount. And that's, interestingly, because they have such a strong demand, and this is the case with many big, heavy industrial places, they don't have a feed from the national grid. They have a feed directly from the nearest power station. And in all three cases, those oil refineries are powered entirely by coal. So all the electricity they're using is from coal, not some of it, not a bit of nuclear and a bit of wind and a bit of solar. It's all coal. So it's the dirtiest fuel being used to refine the dirtiest fuel. And the little sum I did, 20 million Nissan Leafs could drive 20 trillion miles on the electricity we use to refine petrol every year.
That's insane. It's like the wind turbines. One of those big wind turbines, like the ones that Ecotricity has, like even the smallest one produces 500 megawatts.
Yeah.
Which
they make a lot of electricity, yeah. So I mean, it is all those arguments, the likes of the
it was 50
James
megawatts.
Delingpole, who hate wind turbines. Why would you hate wind turbines? What is there to hate? They make electricity for nothing. It's as simple as that.
It is simple.
And all the arguments about subsidies, and they're getting subsidised. Oh, and unlike coal, that isn't getting subsidised. Unlike nuclear, which is subsidised to the tune of billions every year.
Yes.
Hello.
And we are subsidising it with our land.
I was just going to say the line that always gets trotted out at that point is they're not subsidised, that you get tax breaks. And apparently that's completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It still gives them more money to spend, but it's completely different.
Do we think we're at a point now where electric, because they're talking about ending the electric vehicle subsidies in the UK altogether. And, we are at that point now where I'm worried that the UK government's just going to kill off electric cars, and we're going to be campaigning and running around trying to keep a network open of charging stations when everyone else has forgotten about it. It's quite scary. Over in America, though, Toyota and Nissan are now starting to advertise their cars in a very unique way. I quite liked Minority Report. I know that there were some huge gaps in the plot, but I did like
the fact that a convicted murderer's eye scans are still left on file for weeks afterwards.
Yes. I didn't say I liked the plot. I like the fact that, I like their vision of the future. So it's John Anderson, isn't it? He walks through the shopping centre, and he has all these ads playing at him. John Anderson, you need a beer right now. Guinness, you need to buy a Gap, whatever it was. Now, no kidding, in California, in certain cities, so Los Angeles, San Francisco, and I think... where was the third one? I've forgotten where the third one was. San Diego. They are now selling on your TV set adverts directly to you for a Toyota RAV4 EV, but only if you eat granola and wear Birkin. No, seriously. Only if you are the right kind of person. So they're using your presumably all of your internet history and various other things to create a profile for you. They know where you shop. They know what type of food you like to eat. They know what political persuasion you might have, and so they look at those people and go, okay, that person might want a RAV4 EV. We'll try and sell it to them. And they're doing the same thing on iTunes Radio for the Nissan Leaf. So I don't know if I like being advertised to in that way. I mean, I get a kick out of seeing an EV ad on TV, but is that a bit too far, Robert?
I mean, the thing is that they are. I think it's fine because I don't think it makes any difference. It's the same as Google. Google's been doing that for years. I mean, it is that alarming thing when you use Gmail and someone's, a friend says, we've just moved into a new house with a south-facing roof. Should I get solar panels? That's a mate of mine asking. And at the top it says, solar panels fitted in the UK for $9.99. It's an advert for solar panels, which is what's mentioned in the email. Then you think, they're reading my emails. Yeah. Of course they're not, but, there is that side of it. And so we're kind of used to it. And I certainly noticed on Facebook the other day, which I use twice a year, there was an advert for something, I can't remember what it was, something... like a camera, something to do with a camera that I'd bought on Amazon.
Wow.
6 months ago. And there was an advert for, if you have the Canon's D7D or whatever it is, you could use it. I was going, that was the first time I was spooked by it because I thought I've never mentioned any of this. I don't use Facebook. So, it may have been a coincidence, but it felt a bit chilling.
That's a bit freaky. On
a wider scale, I mean, advertising is something that we in the next sort of 10 years, 10, 15 years, we're really going to have to deal with. There are already devices in major cities like London, Birmingham, and New York, and the major cities in America where they just track your MAC address of any Wi-Fi enabled device as you walk past, say, bins and things like that. And so they can map where a specific phone goes around a city, sounds fairly innocuous, and your phone always has the same ID. But when it figures out, and they did this in London recently, that the same person walks down the same street at 8 o'clock every morning, it means they're probably on their way to work, because they do it Monday to Friday, but they don't do it Saturday and Sunday. And they notice that they always go into a specific coffee shop. Well, if a competitor's just opened up, they've now got to the point where you're walking down the street when a bollard or these bins pick up your specific phone, the advertising LED thing that's stuck on a bus stop in front of you changes to an ad that's specifically targeted to you to get you to try this new coffee shop, or to go into the one with a special offer, just because they know your device takes a specific route. It's really creepy and quite clever, because if we are going to live in a world with ads, I'd rather they were targeted to things I want than things I don't. But it's really interesting.
There you go. Minority Report is coming real. You heard it. All right, it's time to go. Time to go to an advert. And here is an advert for something that I think this is actually quite a personally freaky story. Very good audiobook.
Wow, that's good. That's good. I want to do that.
And the story behind it is kind of scary, because I don't think it's the story that gets me. All the way through the book, I want to believe that something amazing is going to happen, and the ending is very final. Without giving it away, the ending is very final, and it just left me going, "That's it? That's the end of the book?" And I had a little cry. It's a very good book. Right, according to GM CEO Dan Akerson, I think he should maybe have a little bit of a cry. The Cadillac ELR, which is the upcoming range-extended electric luxury sedan, which is basically a Chevy Volt inside, but it's got loads of gadgets and stuff on top, will compete in the same marketplace as the Tesla Model S, and not only compete, do really well. I just can't see it. You're comparing a luxury 4-seat sedan, which can go, between 40 and 60 miles per charge, depending on how you drive it, and then has its petrol engine kick in, and it just gets the same fuel economy as a Volt, which is, I reckon it's going to be in the $80,000 to $90,000 price range. You're comparing that to a Model S, which can go 250 miles on a charge. If there's a software update, it's just sent to your car, and you get free use at supercharger stations across the US. Mark, it
really boggles my mind. But then I suppose this always boggles my mind, because this happens all the time in the motoring industry. And I suppose depending on what you're looking for in a car, you may make a choice. But the only way I can see this working is if they can play on the whole electric cars aren't proven, which we all know is rubbish. But there are still a lot of people out there, like my family, don't believe electric cars, the technology isn't proven. They're telling me not to buy out the car at the end of the lease because it's not proven technology, and when it's out of warranty, we don't know what's going to happen. So I can see people going, wow, the Model S looks very nice, but it's electric. Whereas I know this big clunky device we've been using for hundreds of years, or what they imagine is hundreds of years.
I think Caddy is going to play on its name, and it's going to play on the fact that the ELR has more gadgets than a little. I mean, there's no door handle. There's just a button that you press. The door release is not manual. It's electronic. It pops. It's a door popper. And there's a cup holder which can be both heated and cooled to keep your beverage at the right temperature, which I find stupid because I drive around with insulated cups. Although, as Robert tells me on a regular basis, my cups are not normal.
I agree.
I would like to broaden that. Your cups and your shoes are not normal. And they frighten me.
Yes, there we go. Moving on. There's even a motorised cover for the cup holders. I mean, this is opulence to the nth degree.
Sorry, can we go back to the motorised cover for the cup holders? What function are they serving?
Well,
like they cover your cup when it's in there.
No.
To
In a lot of
insulation?
luxury cars, when you don't have your cup holder being used, there's like a slidey thing that you pull over, which hides your cups holders.
Because they're just garish.
Because they're just garish. And this one is motorised, so you just pull it a little bit and then it goes bzzz, and then you flip it and it goes bzzz. So you think that someone's obviously spent a lot of time and energy developing that system. Cadillac's put it into the car. It must be a $50 part.
Yeah.
And presumably it runs on electricity. So it is. I think what is intriguing about this is that it wouldn't be possible for GM to do a better advert for Tesla. I think I'm going to go with the conspiracy theory. I think Elon paid them a few $1,000s to say this because it just plays into their hands so well. That they're catching. That they're acknowledging this company has made a giant leap, left us standing in the dark. And we're going to catch up. Whoa, yeah, we're going to catch up and we're going to make something that's like they've made. Make something like they've... I think it's great. I want them to make a car that's like the Model S. I want every manufacturer to do it. But, it does seem to play very much into Tesla's hands. I
just think, GM is scared. I wrote a piece this week saying that GM was scared by Tesla, and I stand by that,
And they don't... They're scared and they don't realize the game's changed. They don't realize that they need to change the way they're advertising, to change the way they're talking. It's everything. The whole game's changed around them and they're stuck in an old model is what's happened.
It's scary. Right. Moving on. CarWings this week is going to stay free for European Leaf owners. That wonderful, reliable way that you can check to see if your car is charging, to see if it's set the climate control and to set the sat-nav. Robert's laughing because I happen to know that Robert's CarWings has never worked.
It works when I'm not now it works, but not when I'm at home, which would be a useful time for it to work because there's no signal and we don't have mobile phone signals here, so it's all a bit sad.
So
I love that idea. If like my car, which I've got it set to go to 80%, and I have to go into the app and tell it to go to 100%. If you forget to do that, and it's 3 a.m, and it's snowing outside, you have to go outside to your car and press the button in the car.
Yeah, he does. But I mean, would you pay, Robert, for CarWings? I mean, it's a really unreliable.
No, I wouldn't pay for it. No. To be honest, I don't use it. I use so many of the things that the Leaf's got, the charging timer, the heating timer, all that. I just set it up in the car and forget about it. I haven't ever been in a position where, I've been giving a talk and the car's in a car park charging and I go, if only I could communicate with the car now, I don't know what I could do. It's not something that has been a major part of my EV experience, I have to say.
You should wait for the denouement story today. It's just going to be brilliant. But CarWings is unreliable as heck, and I wouldn't pay for it. And most Leaf drivers I know, both in the US and in the UK and elsewhere in the world, we wouldn't pay a subscription fee. And I think Nissan just kind of realised and went, you know what, this is a bit embarrassing. It has its uses. It works most of the time. Let's just make it free. Anyway, Nissan is working on more interesting things now because it's doing self-driving cars, and its first self-driving Leaf has now been allowed on the roads of Japan. This is insane. Insanely cool, though. So Nissan's just been granted the first ever number plate for an autonomous vehicle. It's fitted with an advanced driver assistance system. It's not fully autonomous yet, but they're using this car to effectively prepare the ground for a fully driving autonomous vehicle by 2020. This car already using Nissan's technology that it already has, this car can go onto the motorway all by itself. It can find the right exit and safely exit. It can overtake slower cars. It can stop at stoplights and then sort of resume. It at the moment can't do a lot of the detection, I think, of strange people running across the road or whatever that you might sometimes encounter in real life. But it's coming. Would you trust it, though? Robert, you've just written a book, News from the Squares, about the future, a future run by women. Do they have...
Well, it's also, there's quite a lot, because having been in a completely autonomous vehicle that has no controls in it, no pedals or steering wheel, I felt safe within a few seconds. I mean, the initial experience is quite bizarre. So this was in Abu Dhabi at Masdar City. There's a lot of autonomous vehicles running around under the city, electric ones, and they just do it. And you just get used to it. It's like being in a bus or in a train. You don't think about, is the driver concentrating?
Yeah. And they've got them at Terminal 5 now, haven't they, at Heathrow Airport in London?
They've got them at Heathrow Airport, yeah. I mean, the ones at Heathrow Airport are very similar. The ones I have to say, the ones in Mazda are they just look better. But the ones at Heathrow are on a sort of dedicated roadway. So they look a bit more like trains, whereas the ones in Mazda are just on a road. They just go along the road.
That's
and
insane.
They react to other vehicles. They would react to a human being in the way. They're all controlled. I mean, they're amazing, control systems they've got. Very sophisticated. And the way they park is really cute, because they do it absolutely perfectly. They're not sort of wibbling like we would. Like, even a really good driver would sort of have to make an adjustment as they're steering into a narrow parking place. These just go zoom, zoom, and they go straight in without any hassle.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I mean, it makes so much sense. It's such a sensible way of using vehicles. Really, my final argument whenever I talk about this is, I don't want to own a car.
Yeah.
I want to be able to use them because they're really useful, but I don't want to own one. There's a real hassle and a burden to own one. I want to be able to press the button on my smartphone and one just turns up at the house and then it goes away afterwards and I don't have to worry about it. And that means that we can have less cars, which we use more, instead of leaving them parked around all the time.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Is if Nissan succeeds in this and Tesla succeeds in this, who's sort of going for the same technology, is surely it does change the model. Why would you own one? You don't need to own one. You'd phone up, or like you say, smart app, press a button. 20 minutes later, one of these arrives at your door and takes you to where you need to go, and that's it. You don't worry about where it's parked, and when you need one, you press the button and call it. And the system should be clever enough to any point of day, no matter how busy the network is, if it's clever enough, there'll always be a car ready for you.
We've got. I think
it's just it's just that the systems that are already on this path, you can see it is coming. That's these sort of changes. The car sharing systems that particularly I saw in Berlin are really impressive, and the private car, and this is cars you drive yourself, but like Car2Go. There's so many of them that you don't think, oh my goodness, I'm all anxious. Will I be able to get a car? You go out of the door of your house or your office in Berlin and there's a car on the other side of the road. We never found one more than 150 meters from where we were. There's 8,000 of them on the streets of Berlin. So it's really, and everybody uses them because it makes so much sense. And even if you're a really wealthy person who's got your massive Audi SUV that you drive to Italy in for the holidays, you go, oh, I can't be bothered to keep that thing. I'll rent one for the 2 weeks we go on holiday, and we'll use the Car2Go instead. And then the whole picture of the city starts to change. You can park really easily in Berlin because there's less cars around. Bizarrely,
I would love to see that working if I knew that the cars that I would be using would always be charged up. I think I'd have a little bit of, or at least would have the range. So when I book my car, I go, I'm going to be going from here to here to here. And the system automatically goes, okay, but then you might decide to run off and do an extra errand within 5 miles or whatever. And then the app goes, the car's got enough charge, just jump in, off you go. And then I don't have to worry about charging it up. I don't have to worry about...
I think one of the things that I know which I really liked about the system we saw in Berlin was that if you say, because they have they have petrol and electric cars, but if you have say an electric car and you drive it somewhere and then you plug it in when you get there, you start to charge it. One, you don't have to pay for the charging. Two, you get extra minutes on your drive time. So it's
For
that
being a goody
encourages you to do that,
two-shoes.
which means that everyone said the electric cars, the hassle is that everybody wants to use the electric ones, and there's not that many of them yet, and they're always full.
Because
which is
everyone wants to get the extra minutes. It works.
You get
It's
your extra
fantastic.
minutes, yeah. And it's the same with if you fill up the petrol. Again, you don't have to pay for the petrol when you fill it up. That's covered by the cost of your rental. You get extra minutes for doing it. So I mean, one of the English cameramen I was working with said this would never work in England. It would be full of burger wrappers, tin cans, and the tank would always be empty. Which because it was very, very efficient and tidy and clean in Germany.
It's German, of course.
Yes, they were being German about it, and very nice too.
All right. So, Robert, I know that your wife has sometimes got in your car and driven it, and then brought it back, and it's had a bit of a low battery, or she's decided to make an extra trip somewhere, and then you've come both to the realization that, battery's a bit low. This next story is for you. You could have in the boot of your other electric car one of these devices, and you drive it out, and you give your wife a jump start. Ooh, This is brilliant, isn't it, Mark?
Yes, I just got to see I'm trying to remember how much it weighs. It's heavy.
It's about the same as a healthy, or slightly more than healthy person.
Adult, 180-pound person, 81 kilograms. Yeah, that's quite a chunky box to put in the back of your car.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I actually only just understood that you could charge your own car from it as well as someone else.
Yes. Yeah. So
It's like an energy transfusion for the cars. It takes power from one car with a CHAdeMO and puts it into another car with a CHAdeMO.
But as Robert correctly noted, you can actually also get a secondary power input. So you can pay some extra money, and then you can use it as a 3-phase charger, and you plug that in and it will work as a 3-phase. You can plug in some extra, you can do it from single phase. So, but I don't expect this is going to be cheap.
No. I mean, I think what the article says is very sensible, that it would make great sense to put in something like an AA van or a vehicle recovery truck.
Yeah,
because that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there it's got a real sensible role, but to actually shove it in the back of your car, and have suddenly find that your steering is even lighter because the front wheels are barely touching the ground, is maybe less sensible.
But let's finish with this story, which is phenomenal. Okay, have you ever seen a fake holographic projection before, Robert? Oh, of course you have.
I have seen a few fake holographic projections in my life.
Are you telling me that Holly wasn't really a hologram?
No, that was all real. That wasn't faked at all.
Okay, well. Look at this. This is a video from a guy in the Netherlands. This is awesome. He's built a fake hologram for his Nissan Leaf.
For the past 6 months, I've been driving the electric Nissan Leaf, and I love it. One of the nice things about it is that you can communicate with it using your smartphone. I figured a hologram would be a nice way to interact with it as well. So this here is a holographic representation of my car. It communicates with the real one in my garage. I can even talk with it. Leaf. Battery status.
Battery status, 75%. Plugged in, not charging.
Leaf. Range estimate.
Estimated range with current charge is 116 kilometers.
The cool use of this is that you can remotely activate the climate control system on a cold or warm day before getting to your car. Leaf. Activate climate control.
Climate control activated.
Okay, let's go see if that worked.
And of course it does. So
Wow,
he's used this flat monitor. The technology behind it's incredible. He uses a flat LCD monitor, which he's laid flat on a table, and he's then using a Microsoft Kinect to see where he is in the room. And as he moves around the room, the computer program changes the representation of the car on the monitor, giving it a virtual 3D appearance. It's incredibly clever. and then he just uses a script, back-end script to control it. He's absolutely brilliant. We've invited him on the show, so he'll have to come on.
Amazing.
He's actually from Belgium, actually. I should have said. I think he's Belgium.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Robert, would you like one of those? Or do you like your car to be a little bit more, I don't know, a bit more?
I want one of those.
You press the button.
Yeah.
So there we are.
I definitely pay for that. That's very cool.
I think Robert's suffering from being in the country with his connection.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's taken about 2 seconds, Robert. Anyway, it's now. Oh dear. Right. Well, that really is it for today's Transport Evolved. I hope that was nice and short for everyone watching. Do subscribe to the show. You can do so at www.transportevolved.com. For those of you who haven't seen the new website, this is what it looks like. I think it looks quite nice.
Just quite nice.
Quite nice, don't you? That's pretty cool.
I think it looks bloody brilliant.
It's bloody brilliant, boy. It's brilliant. But anyway, we've also got the new show up, which is TEN. Please watch that. Several people have made some lovely comments, been very complimentary about it. We were aware there was a bit of a problem with the lighting. That's because this green screen that we're using here was in a different room, and so it doesn't have all of the extra lights that we have in here, which meant that it didn't look quite right and it all went a bit wrong. But we'll sort it for next week, won't we, Mark?
We will. We're constantly improving.
We are constantly improving. Thank you very much, very, very much for being on the show, Robert. Just as you're in the middle of typing.
That was my pleasure. I'm just typing, so I've had a lovely time. I just wanted,
thank
just
you
in
very
case you
much.
couldn't hear me.
Where are you next? Because you're doing skeptical talks, aren't you?
I'm doing some more skeptical talks. I'm doing a lot of book stuff this week, and then some skeptical talks after that. And I have got some sort of announcements in the area of carpool and fully charged to come up, but I don't want to say anything yet because I keep changing my mind.
I must admit, every time I ring you up and ask you how things are going, you've got a different idea. You're like Del Boy. One day we'll be millionaires, boy.
Yeah, no, exactly. He is a millionaire. We went through this earlier.
Sorry.
No, I'm a billionaire. I'm a multi-billionaire. Someone told me on Twitter the other day I'm a multi-billionaire. I believe them.
I accept your reality. I will not substitute my own. That really is it, folks. Thanks for joining us. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter at Transport Evolve, and you can also find us on YouTube. Until next week, don't forget to tell everyone about the new website and the new shows, because we need viewers. That would be great. And until then, don't forget to plug in. See you soon. Take care. Bye.